Welcome into the final instant reaction show of this 2021 spring FCS season. A crazy season it's been, and we've been happy to join you for the ride. I'm the fearless host, AC, and I'm joined by my guy, my man, glutton for punishment, Sean Lewis.
I haven't been this depressed after a loss by the Wildcats in a long time.
Tough loss today at Stewart Stadium. 34-31 at the hands of the Southern Illinois Salukis. First time that these two teams have ever met, and it happened to be in the playoffs at Stewart Stadium when the Salukis snuck out of Ogden with a victory. Huge moment for the SIU football program. Disappointing moment for the Weber State football program. Sean, let's just dive right into it. Let's get to your initial thoughts. What do you think about the game?
My initial thoughts are, at least in the first half, the offense showed us what they could do. I turned to the people that I was sitting next to and said, "Hey, I like this offense. This is going to be a great day." As the game wore on, things just went downhill. We scored 21 points in the first half, which is more points than we've scored in two other games this season. I mean, so scoring was at a premium at the first half. But the defense just didn't have it today. And I think a lot of the struggles, and we'll get into this later in the show, but I think a lot of the struggles for the Wildcats today came on the defensive side of the ball, which is not what we're used to seeing from Weber State.
Wildcat football traditionally has a very strong defense, and today they gave up 34 points, and that obviously was enough to get the Salukis through to the next round to face South Dakota State in Brookings, South Dakota. So for me, I think the hardest part about the game for Wildcat Nation is the fact that this spring season seemed to be their window of opportunity. It seemed to be their big chance to make a splash and to show, you know what, we're Weber State and we are here and we're not going anywhere. But and I say that because North Dakota State clearly was down. They've won 15,000 out of the last 15,001 national championships or something. They've won 1 million national championships. And they're down. They lost 2 games this season. So they lost 2 games this season. They're clearly down. And then there's James Madison, who's also had their struggles this season and has not looked like the number 1 seed, to the point where the CAA, their own conference, didn't name them the conference champion. And so JMU's down. North Dakota State's down. Who does that leave? Montana's not playing. Montana State's not playing. Weber State looked to be like they were right there and ready for the opportunity to win a national championship. You figured tons of talent was returning. You would have liked to have seen improved quarterback play coming into this season. And so it seemed like things were there for the taking for Weber State to make the trip to Frisco, Texas. And here we are. Weber State ends up losing their first playoff game. And I think one of the most frustrating fashions possible.
I want to change your metaphor just a little bit. Change it from a window to a door. That door was standing wide open. It was propped open. All the Wildcats had to do was walk right on through. And for whatever reason, you couldn't get it done this year. Now, spring was weird. First off, I don't want to get too down on this team. And we'll get to some good things later. But these are 18 to 22-year-old kids for the most part. They're doing the best they can. It was a tough situation. The COVID situation, the way everything went this spring was just weird and odd, out of your normal football rhythms. The Wildcats had a ton of injuries today, playing without some star players, and I don't want to be down on them. And we're going to nitpick and we're going to give some good things, but what I want to say is that the door has never been more wide open for a Wildcat playoff run. And for whatever reason, it just didn't happen this year. And that is super disappointing. But look at where we've come from. It wasn't all but 7 years ago. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this is Jay Hill's 7th campaign. We're 7 campaigns away from 1-7, 2-6, 2-6, right? So how have expectations changed for the Wildcat fans when a first-round playoff exit is super disappointing compared to our history, which is we suck in football every year. So we've got to give credit where credit's due. expectations are bigger, so this is disappointing, but it could be a lot worse, Wildcat fans. It could be a lot worse. We could be sitting on 2-6. We may not have had football this spring. So let's look at the greater whole for what it is, which was still a successful season with only one loss. Now that 1L came at the worst possible time, but we only had one loss this season compared to 6 wins for the Wildcats.
Lots of good to come away from this season. First ever outright Big Sky Conference championship, undefeated regular season. And the standard has changed at Weber State. This is only the 9th playoff appearance in Weber State history. This is their 5th straight playoff appearance. And so, I mean, when you consider that, more than half of their FCS playoff appearances have come in this stretch, this 5-year stretch. Well, I guess a little bit more than 5 years because we had the off year in 2020, but this 5-season stretch. And so really the standard has changed. And here we are saying Weber State had an open door, as you said, Sean, to make it to the national championship. And I don't think anybody would have seen this coming when the Jay Hill hire was made or back in with Ron McBride. And so things clearly have changed in Ogden. And I think that's part of what makes this loss hurt for Wildcat Nation is the fact that things have changed and expectations are sky high. So it's been a little bit of an interesting season, probably a disappointing end for many people involved. But I mean, the spring season's over. The fall season's just right around the corner. Not a lot of resting time, not a lot of time for us to take a break from covering this Weber State Wildcat football team. And just an interesting season overall. And we're going to get to some Jay Hill comments here, his initial reaction after the game. But first, we want to give a shout out to our sponsor, WildcatRack.com. Check them out, wildcatrack.com, where you can get all your officially licensed Weber State gear. It's locally owned and operated by people here in Weber County who love the purple and white just as much as you and I. Go check them out, wildcatrack.com. Get your one-of-a-kind Weber State gear. So let's Jay Hill, shortly after the game, he had a press conference, and he had some initial thoughts and reactions as well.
You got to give a ton of credit to Southern Illinois. They came in here, they fought, they clawed, they got down early. There was 3 or 4 times, in my opinion, that we had chances in the second half to go up 2 or 3 scores, and we didn't do it. And before you know it, they took the lead in the 4th quarter. We went down and scored late, and they responded with a heck of a drive. A lot of credit goes to that quarterback. He made some huge plays. We had him running for his life most of the game, and he ended up making a bunch of great plays with his feet and his arm. They're a tough team, well coached, and they really, this game comes down to they made a few more plays than we did, and all respect to them. They played the game the right way today.
Sean, your thoughts on what the old ball coach had to say?
I can hear the disappointment in Coach Hill's voice. I really can. I know that he's not going to be satisfied with this loss. I know that this wasn't the end of the spring season that the coaches had anticipated. And that was a lot of coach speak, right? You never want to tear down your opponent. And then he was exactly right. The SIU quarterback made some whale of plays when they needed him. He stepped up big and was there the whole time. So, but for me, the takeaway from Jay Hill is just, you can hear the disappointment and the frustration. Maybe, just maybe, I'm speculating here, and I want to be very, very clear about that. Maybe, just maybe, the Wildcats were looking past Southern Illinois and got into a dogfight. The Wildcats have played with fire all season. This is a point that I wanted to make. We've played just well enough to win in every game. And when you play with fire, you're going to get burned eventually. And again, worst time to get burned, but I don't think the Wildcats played up to their potential all season. Hopefully we got some guys, some good reps, and we'll come back in the fall that'll make a contribution. This will make a difference and come back with some fire to want to get this bad taste out of their mouth.
Lots of talent coming in the fall. There's the transfer from Tennessee, Jordan Allen, who's going to be playing tight end for the Wildcats. That's another offensive weapon that they can look forward to, as well as the 2019 Mountain West Conference Newcomer of the Year, Randall Grimes, going to be on the outside playing wide receiver for Weber State. And so there's a lot of talent coming back, a lot of talent that's going to be making their debut as well. And hey, don't forget that Weber State they just wrapped up what, in my opinion, is the best recruiting class in school history. Many of those freshmen are going to be stepping onto the field in the 2021 fall season, the normal season, as I'll call it. So, there's a lot to look forward to in the fall for sure. Jay Hill definitely seemed a little bit disappointed in the press conference. I'll say this from a neutral perspective. I thought the SIU was an enjoyable team to watch. I really did. They ran the ball well. They're well coached. Schematically, I thought that they played very well. And their quarterback, Labanowitz, like Coach Hill mentioned, was running for his life on many different occasions. Weber State got home on 4 different occasions, and he ended up throwing a pick, but he also made some awesome plays. And so from a neutral perspective, SIU, I thought, was a fun team to watch. And to their credit, they played an excellent game today. So credit to SIU, disappointing end to the Weber State season, though, for sure. Now we'll get to our normal schedule, our normal template of things, and we'll go MVP, turnover, and takeaway. Sean, I'll let you go first on this. Tough loss, but somebody had to stick out in your mind. Who's your MVP from today's game?
MVP is Daniel Wright, 11 carries, 91 yards, and a tutty. Also had, I believe, 1 catch for 17 yards. All around, I think he was the bright spot on the offense. His high rush was 40 yards. And really, I could have gone with a lot of different players for this one. I thought, obviously, the captain, Connor Mortensen, had a great game. I thought that Bronson Baron had a great game and played well. My names are escaping me right now. I thought we were overall was balanced. You look at the stat sheet and the throws were balanced across the board. The rushing was balanced. Weber State had every reason to win this game and just came short on the scoreboard. But for my MVP, I'm going to go with Daniel Wright.
There were times when Daniel Wright was just running angry, just flat out angry, running through dude. Yeah. His touchdown too. He sidestepped the dude. I wanted to tweet out the little dancing emoji, but I don't know. I'm telling you, he had some runs that were awesome to watch. Daniel Wright had, I thought he had a killer spring season, honestly. And he had a really good game, Sean. I'll agree with you there.
Speaking of rushing, I thought it was interesting today. It felt like Weber State was rushing to the left almost every time. It just seemed left. And I wonder if there was a mismatch that they were exploiting or something like that. But just felt like all the big runs came on the left side of the line. I don't know what that means. I don't know what the schematic advantage was there, but that was interesting.
Yeah, definitely something to keep an eye on, right? The left side of the line, and the offensive line was decimated today, by the way, missing 3 starters across the board. And so, for Daniel Wright to do what he did today with essentially second-string players playing across the board, and Weber State's offensive line is deep, so no disrespect to anyone involved. But with a lot of the starters out, it was a tough day at times for the running attack, and Daniel Wright was able to average 8.3 yards a carry. That's pretty dang good. So, definitely a worthy MVP. For my MVP of the game, I'm going to go with Mitchell Maxfield. I thought that he had a couple of moments in the game that were potentially game-changing. Weber State got 4 sacks on the day, and Maxfield was responsible for one of them. Labanowitz threw 1 pick, and it was to Mitch Maxfield. And so I thought that he had an awesome game with some moments that in typical games could potentially sway the momentum. And today, obviously, that wasn't the case. But I thought that Mitch Maxfield, I thought that he did – he had a really nice game on the defense that gave up more points than we usually see them do. But Mitch Maxfield, to me, was definitely a bright spot. So let's move to – we'll go negative first here. We'll be the wet blankets, as we typically are. We'll go to turnovers first. It's turnovers and takeaways. So it'll be turnovers first. Sean, we'll start with you. What'd you think?
For my turnover, it's a question that I would like to answer, and that is, where was Weber State's vaunted defense today? I mean, let me give you some facts here. On Southern Illinois scoring drives, Weber State had SIU had a 3rd and 5 from the WSU 37. They got an 11-yard pass. They had a 3rd and 10 from the WSU 26. We had a personal foul. I believe that was a late hit. 3rd and 18 from the WSU 40. They get a 19-yard pass. I'm pretty sure he caught it on his leg on that one. I think that was the one where he caught it on his leg. 4th and goal. We give up a fake field goal. I'm not even sure the guy that caught the pass was in the huddle. He was just standing all alone on the east side. 3rd and 21. They rushed for 4 yards, set up a field goal. 4th and 6 at the north end zone, gave up the TD game winner. The defense couldn't get off the field. Those 3rd and 4th downs, you stop one of them, Weber wins this game. That's all their scoring drives. You get one stop, and Weber wins the game.
Couple of moments where the defense was on the verge of getting out of a jam, and something would come up, whether it was a penalty or SIU just had some crazy play, and they end up converting for the first down. So the defense, it wasn't what we typically see from this Weber State team. A little bit of an anomaly today, and that anomaly came at the worst time in the FCS playoffs.
And the defense has kept the Wildcats in the game all season. We've complained many times, or at least I've complained many times, that the defense was on the field too much, that the offensive struggles throughout the season led to the defense having to play more than they should. But at the end of the day, today, if your defense can't get off the field, you're going to give up points, and that's what happened. I think the real egregious one was the fake field goal. I mean, that's a 4-point swing right there, where you're just not paying attention to who's on the field, and there was nobody right around there. And I'm interested to hear more. We've got voice of the Wildcats, Steve Klauke, commenting that the fake field goal was an illegal play that shouldn't have counted. I was in stadium, so I don't get his analysis on that, but regardless, and we love you, Steve, but regardless, it counts on the scoreboard at the end of the game. The refs blow calls all the time. So that one hurts to me, especially if, and I trust that Steve is correct, if there's something illegal about the play. And Steve's saying that he walked off the bench and stood there hiding on the sideline, never came into the huddle, which is what I think happened too. That's something that hurt the Wildcats today. It
definitely hurt the Wildcats, and it hurt where it hurts the most, on the scoreboard, right? And yeah. I'll tell you, after that fake field goal, the Weber State bench was just beside themselves, trying to point out to the officials that they felt like something was definitely off there. I'm not going to act like I know, the letter of the law with the illegal substitution rules, but I'll tell you what, it definitely looked fishy. And yeah. I mean, it worked for SIU because he was standing wide open in the corner of the end zone. So, I mean, at the end of the day, it worked. It worked for SIU, and it hurt Weber State's chances. So, my turnover for the day, honestly, probably for the season, is going to be the red zone offense. Sean, we were talking prior to going on air, and by our account, and forgive me, I'm a history major that attended Weber State. I don't do math, but I think that Weber State ended up leaving 21 points on the board from missed red zone opportunities. There was a missed field goal in the red zone. There were 2 interceptions that were thrown in the red zone, and then there was one other. It was the field goal. Weber State forced the fumble. Preston Smith forced the fumble on the 3-yard line, and out of that, Weber State missed 4 points by only kicking the field goal. And so red zone offense all season ended up killing this team. Weber State put up over 400 yards of total offense. And so what that tells me is that between the 20s, this team is killer. The offense, the explosiveness is there. We saw long pass plays. We saw long rushing plays. But I'll tell you what, once they get into the red zone, I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's personnel. I don't know if it's lack of execution. I don't know if it's mental toughness, fortitude. I don't know what it is. But the team, once they get in the red zone, something happens, and we saw it throughout the season. It's not just today. I mean, the fact that they left 21 points on the board today that's how people are going to remember this team, unfortunately. And Jay Hill, actually, he commented on things in the press conference as well, talking about that red zone offense.
Coach, can you just talk about the three, really the three red zone, the 2 interceptions in the end zone and the missed field goal? How much does that make it more difficult for you today?
That's everything, right? That's a 14-point win if you just take care of business down there. Even if you get 2 field goals out of that, you win. And
did we lose coach? All right, so Jay, he comments on it and he says that's everything. That's the red zone offense, and this isn't the first time we saw that. We've seen turnovers in the red zone against SUU. We saw turnovers in the red zone against NAU. Both those games went right down to the wire, Sean. And so it's the red zone offense, that was a narrative for this team throughout the season, and it's unfortunate because I think that it hurt them in the playoff seeding, and it obviously hurt them in this matchup against the Salukis.
So let's talk about these red zone offense for just a second, because I think they're saying the first interception, I felt like that was the ball just got away from Baron, and those kind of things happen. They caught it in the back of the end zone. That one I can forgive. The second interception was one that was the double coverage to Rashid on the north end. You knew as soon as the ball was thrown that was going to be trouble.
Bare minimum, it was going to be a PBU.
Yeah, exactly. Remember that there was one close interception in the back of the end zone where SIU caught it, but it was out of bounds. And so that could have been a third turnover. We ended up scoring on that drive, if I recall correctly. But the one that really, really bugs me is the fumble. We have first and goal from the 3. We ran 4 plays for -8 yards. We go -5 yards for McMillan, -3 yards for McPherson, an incomplete pass to Rashid Shaheed. And all those, the plays seemed to go east-west rather than north-south. And there were a lot of people sitting around me in the stands wondering why, especially when the success was rushing to the left, rushing up the middle. It felt like the coaches maybe were trying to get a little bit too creative. I don't know what the play calls were. I hate to blanket statement anything, but it felt like a couple of just pound up the middle may have done better than the razzle dazzle that the coaches had.
So there was a touchdown earlier in the game when Chris Jackson came in, and Chris Jackson is a freight train, absolute freight train. And I loved that he got into the game because those were his first and only snaps of the entire season, and it resulted in a touchdown. And I was stoked for him because he's overcome so many things with injuries and everything. So I was stoked for him. But one thing that we saw was that they would bring in Sione Lapuaho and Jared Sheese, the 2 biggest dudes on this team, to block for Chris Jackson when he's down in the red zone trying to get into the end zone, and it ended up working. So this is personal preference. The coaches watch a lot more film than me. They understand football a lot better than me. I'm not calling.
There's a reason where you and I are not football coaches.
Yes, we are not football coaches. For me, that's my personal preference. I loved seeing this Weber State team come out and just pound it into the defense and get into the end zone. And on that drive, when they did go with the fly sweep and they ended up going with the double reverse there, it was a little bit different, and it didn't work out for Weber State in this case, and they ended up kicking a field goal. Had they got a touchdown out of that drive, Weber State ends up, obviously there are other things in play, but Weber State would have had 4 more points on the board. So,
and I think that's the story of this game is points left off the board, right? There's so many opportunities, so many places where you could say, and you can't say that this one play won or lost the game for the Wildcats. It's a cumulative thing of the combined total that lost the game. That a couple of breaks go the other way, and this is a blowout victory. So it just wasn't the Wildcats' day. That's the fact.
Not today, anyway. And you know what? Weber State fans and Wildcat Nation have been the benefactor of so many other days when it just hasn't been the other team's day. A lot of winning going on in Ogden, and today it just didn't happen. So let's move on. Let's get a little bit more positive here, Sean. Enough with the doom and gloom, and let's get to some takeaways. What'd you like about the game?
I'm going to take a more global view on my takeaway. And I'd like to point out that, yes, the game ended in a disappointing loss, but this was still a good season. AC, I got a couple questions for you. Do you know the last time that Weber State went undefeated in the regular season?
I'm going to say never.
That is absolutely correct. Weber State had an undefeated regular season for the first time in school history. That's something to be proud of. Do you remember the last time Weber State had as few as one loss in a season?
Again, I'm going to say never.
A little bit off on that one. 1965, Sark Arslanian's team went 8-1, losing only to Montana. Thank you to the Wildcat Sports and Information Department for putting together, as I perused the almanac for those facts there. Friends, let me tell you, this was still a fantastic season. The Wildcats have a lot to be proud of, a lot to be thankful for. Guys, other than the playoffs, we went undefeated in the regular season. Never happened before in school history. 4 conference championships in a row. Never happened before in school history. First time we've had an outright conference championship. I know that the playoffs is disappointing. I know that that was not the expectations for this team, but let's look at a positive and say that was a whale of a season for the Wildcats, and nobody should look down on it. You're still the defending Big Sky Conference champions. There are 11 other teams in the Big Sky Conference that can't say that. So, and we get a chance to defend that crowd. And think about your eligibility. There are players on this team that don't know what it's like to not win a Big Sky Conference championship.
There's a lot of positive to take out of that.
These are the glory days of Weber State football, friends. The glory days. We're going to be talking about the Jay Hill era. We're going to be talking about that 50 years from now. We're going to remember it much like the old timers now remember Sark Arslanian and the former glory days. This is the glory days of Weber State football. Let's enjoy it. This loss sucks. I get it, but let's not put too fine a point on it. There's a lot to be happy about for this Wildcat team.
As I like to call this team, they're the champs, right?
Yep.
They ran it back. They won it originally and ran it back 3 times. So things could be a lot worse. There are a lot of teams in the Big Sky and around the nation who would gladly switch places with Weber State. So you're absolutely right. Tough loss.
I think there's 2 teams in Montana that would gladly switch places with Weber State right now.
Montana Central and who? I tease. Anyway, my takeaway for this thing, my takeaway from this game specifically is going to be that the offense at times struggled. I think there are a lot of people that are frustrated with the offense, but I think that Matt Hammer and company showed that they're willing to try to make things happen. They're willing to mix things up. It's not the same old. This is a team that was willing to throw some trick plays in there, right? They ended up running the Philly special. It was a double reverse to Ty McPherson that down on the 3-yard line when things went awry, but they were willing to try things. It was not the definition of insanity where you're repeating the same thing over and over again and the results just aren't working out. You know, this team, they showed that they're willing to try things. They're willing to accept new information and make it happen. And you know, the offense, it was flawed this season. Sure, it was flawed. I get that. I dig that. But they're working on it. They are trying, they're studying, and they're looking for new ways to exploit defenses. They're looking for new ways that they can gain an advantage, and it didn't work today. And guess what? They've got an off season now where they can work on it for the fall. And this team, they've got a lot of talent coming back, a ton of talent coming back, as a matter of fact. And so they've got as good a chance as any to win the Big Sky Conference again. And hopefully with the offseason, with the time, they'll be able to get things figured out and right the ship. They've got new talent coming in, Jordan Allen, Randall Grimes, like I previously mentioned. And there's going to be new players, even more talent coming back. So it's a little bit of a tough pill to swallow today, sure. But the offense is showing that they're not just going to stick to it and do the same old stuff. They're willing to try new things.
Hey, one more bright spot to point out. Bronson Baron is a true freshman.
Today was only his fifth start ever.
Yeah, we got 3 more years of this kid. How good is he going to be? I said it a couple weeks ago on the show. My hot take for him is he's going to be a Walter Payton Award winner as the FCS MVP by the time he's done at Weber State. I firmly believe that. And I think that this team can still go up, and there's still a bright future ahead for the Weber State Wildcats.
I would agree with you. I think that there is a very bright future ahead, and I think that most people would agree that the quarterback position has improved from recent years. And Bronson Baron is obviously the key to that. He was the starter in 5 of the 6 games, and I think the kid showed that he's tough as nails. He was playing through a broken wrist.
Yep.
And his escapability, he's fun to watch in the pocket. He knows how to move around in the pocket. There are a couple times when he was able to escape a would-be sack, and he gets out of it and throws the ball away or throws a completion. He's a fun player to watch, and he's only a true freshman. It was his 5th start today, and guess what? This season didn't even count against his eligibility. He's going to be a true freshman in the fall as well. So Bronson Baron, I think that the sky's the limit for him, and I'm excited to see what he does in the fall with a little bit more time, a little bit more experience under his belt. It should be fun. So, Sean, before we wrap things up, any final words, any final conclusions that you have on this game or the season?
Congratulations to SIU. You came into a tough place to play. You won. All credit goes to the Salukis. Again, I'm proud of the Wildcats. This was a great season. It was a fun season to watch from the stands. Made even better by being able to have a place to talk about it here on Weber State Weekly in the community that we're trying to build here. Thanks for those that are following us here on all the outlets so that we can continue to bring you the coverage of Weber State sports. And since I know Clocky's watching, you have an open invite to come on the show anytime, Steve.
Seconded. Sean, I 100% agree with you. This spring season, not even the spring season, but this entire calendar year has just been absolutely crazy for everyone involved with Weber State Athletics, with Weber State Weekly. It has been insane. We have been so busy at times trying to keep up with everything and trying to bring these student athletes, these teams, the coverage that we feel like they deserve. We're grateful for the people who have listened to us, who have watched our videos, who have read our content. Wouldn't have been possible without them. And we're grateful for them. We're feeling positive about the future of Weber State Athletics and Weber State football specifically. Again, just super grateful for everything that our audience has done for us. And we hope that you have enjoyed it as much as we have enjoyed bringing it to you. And let's go. Let's for the final time in this football season, this spring football season, we should be back hopefully in July when camp starts. We should be back bringing you some more Weber State football coverage. But for the final time in this spring football season, let's wrap it up how we usually do, Sean. And we'll say Weber State, Weber State.
Great.
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 Go Wildcats.